People watching with 19 likes. I love it. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Go ahead and hit that like button when you join in. By hitting the like button, the YouTube algorithm will pick up the video, spread it around for more people to join in, and it's a lot more fun to have these live streams when we have more people joining in on the comment section. So go ahead and hit that like button when you join in. Today we're going to be talking about the lumber industry and how the new home starts are dropping. Like the idea of new home construction bringing new inventory to the market is really where I think a lot of people are anticipation of like home prices coming down. Like if you want to bring new inventory to the market, you have to have the home builders excited, right? And the home builders are not excited right now, and you can see this within the futures market of lumber. Now, if you go and look at lumber futures right now, they're trading about 485 per thousand. I left a link down in the description for you guys. This is something very interesting. I was even talking to one of my vendors yesterday about this very thing before. In this, here, let me back it up a little bit and tell you the story. So yesterday, I'm just doing my regular job. You know, a lot of you know that I work at a lumber yard. I do retail sales for a living. And I had this really nice family who was traveling through, stop by to say hello to me. You know, like they were fans of the channel and they just wanted to come in and, you know, just meet me real quick and say hello. And it was pretty cool. You know, I had a little break. There was in between customers. And when these guys came in, they were patiently waiting off to the side till I had finished up. And then they came and approached me. And I'm sitting there just kind of talking with them a little bit. Well, one of the vendors that comes into the store to sell us stuff, he was just kind of wandering around there waiting for customers to clear out to talk to us. And he saw me interacting with this family, and he comes up to me after they left and he says, "What are you, like, famous out there for something?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I have a really popular YouTube channel, and it's all based on economics," right? And so he was pretty interested about it. But before we could even really talk about that, we started talking about lumber and where the lumber prices are moving to. And he said that his buyer for his company is absolutely beside himself with where the lumber future prices are right now. And he's saying the same thing. Like he told, like I didn't even share any of the information. He didn't even know I had a YouTube channel, nothing. And what this guy was telling him, and then, you know, what he was, you know, related or, you know, reiterating to me, was that the mills at under 500 per thousand are not making money, right? They, like, some of them probably can, but the majority of the lumber mills out there are not making money under 500 per thousand. So when futures drop all the way down to 480, they're not in business. This is not a profitable business for them. Right? And I'm starting to experience this very thing. So like this guy was saying, like he doesn't understand how it is that lumber futures can be as cheap as they are right now, and these mills not going completely, you know, completely shutting down because of the lack of profitability in it. Now, something that also goes along with this, and something I have been reporting on for quite some time, is that certain lumber is a little more difficult to find. Like some of the longer lengths, some of the wides, like the 2x10, 2x12, these things are a little bit more difficult to source out. Well, I was just talking with one of the other salesmen here who's, you know, who does more of the contractor sales, doing the house bids and stuff like that, and just kind of asking him about some of the things that he is witnessing. He said he went out there to go find some premium grade lumber. So we carry a little bit higher grade lumber than the guys down the road to, you know, because being price competitive is very difficult with the big box store. So we carry a better product. We just carry something that just looks better. It's, you know, has less wane to it, less warp, less knot split, stuff like that. So our lumber is a premium grade. We order a premium grade for that reason. Well, it's difficult to find the premium grade right now. You can find precision cut, which is like, you know, which is basically the highest end grade of framing lumber you can buy, or you can get the absolute standard and better, the number 2 stuff. But everything in between is becoming very, very difficult to find. And it's because the mills are only going to produce what is most in demand. And when you think about production, it's always about the cheapest stuff, right? So when you got high amount of production that has taken place, or if the production, like the high production is the only thing that's has the demand for lumber, then that's what they're going to produce, is the thing that's going to sell. And it happens to be the cheapest thing out there, and it's the the ugliest stuff out there. So it makes it very difficult to try and be competitive with the premium grade if you can't find the premium grade and the only thing available is the precision stuff. And this is some of the things that we are facing now. Now, if I'm facing it, I'm sure other lumber yards are facing the very same thing. All right. So I know that I'm not unique and, isolated to this particular incident. This is going across the board. So just to kind of give you an example of where we are at, when you have lumber futures trading at $485 per thousand, this means $485 per thousand board feet, which makes it very difficult because most people go down to the lumber yard and they're buying it by the foot or they're buying it by the piece, but very rarely are you buying lumber by the board foot, right? Now, maybe if you're, doing thousands of houses and you're figuring out per square foot on something like that, then maybe you might be pricing out per thousand board feet. But for the most part, that's not the way that most individuals, even including like contractors who are building houses, they don't usually go off of board foot pricing. They go off of lineal foot or piece pricing. So the board foot price of $485 per thousand, let's relate to what this would be to a 2x4 8 standard and better. Because a 2x4, 2 inches by 4 inches by 8 feet long, and of course, a 2x4 isn't 2x4, it's actually 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. But regardless, the per thousand price on a 2 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot long piece, which is 5.33 board feet, you're looking at somewhere around $2.50, about $2.55, $2.60, somewhere in there, when you're around $480 to $500 per thousand. So now think about this for just a minute. I was selling lumber back in 2017 for about this price. Lumber futures were about this, right? 2017, 18. In fact, they ran up to $650 per thousand. We had lumber selling for $5 a stick for a 2x4 8. Well, right now that futures price is $2.55. Now you throw a little bit of a markup on it and you're somewhere around $3.25, maybe $3.50 on a 2x4 standard and better. This is incredibly low comparative to what happened during the pandemic. Those same studs during the pandemic at the height of the hot lumber pricing was at $13.50 retail. Now they're about $3.50. So the idea of where it is that lumber demand is coming from, it's not coming from the builders. It's not coming from the retail. In fact, it doesn't seem to be out there at all. During a time in which that you would think, man, high house prices, right? I mean, prices are elevated on homes. People who build homes want to get the best price for them, and home prices are elevated. Doesn't these two typically bring together like a conclusion of, man, maybe more houses will come to the market? Builders want to take advantage of high prices. Prices are high. Why isn't it taking place? Buyer traffic, right? Now, this is the main indicator that I think is probably holding back not only the lumber future prices, but also the builders like sentiment to actually start building homes is literally the buyer traffic. Just that right there. There's all kinds of things to look at, interest rates and mortgage and all this stuff, right? Buyer traffic. If you just isolate it down to that one aspect right now, once that flips and the buyer traffic becomes positive, the home builder sentiment, buyer traffic, the builders are going to say, okay, yes, I can build a home. Expect that I'm going to be able to sell it or have it on the market for today's price, right? Because if I start a home today, I would expect that by the time I finish it, that I would be able to get a price for it of what is occurring today, not have to reduce the price in order to sell it, right? So if the builder is in that sort of feeling that they can start a home today and then be able to get the price for it going into the future, like there's not going to be a downturn in prices, but only maybe maintaining or going up, then the buyer coming in and saying, yes, I am here. I want to participate in this market. I am coming to, the open houses. I'm there at the real estate agents, all this other stuff. Once the buyers are there, man, it's going to be on. There is not enough lumber in this system to support any kind of major uptick in demand. And what I mean by major uptick, all it has to do is the buyer traffic to turn positive. And that is going to spark the builders. The builders want to build. Like people saying, no, builders don't want to, like, whatever, they're holding back or something. It's bull. Like, they don't care, right? If builders built a cheap home that would sell and make a profit, they would build cheap homes and make a profit. If it's only expensive homes that they can build in order to make a profit, then that's what they're going to build, is expensive homes. Builders want to build. They don't care what it is that they're building, right? I mean, they do care. They care, you know. I mean, I imagine some builders really care. But it isn't a matter of what type of house they put together. What is a matter of is the profit that's at the other end of it. That's what matters. And if a low-end house doesn't have the profit margin to it, then that's not what they're going to build. They're only going to build high-end homes because that's where the profit margin is. However, if the buyer traffic came in a way that says, hey, we can afford, we can purchase starter homes, and if there was a capability for the builder to build that starter home and be profitable, then that's what they would do. Okay? So it's coming. There is a moment coming in time here in the future that things are going to flip, right? I can't tell you when. I don't know how far out it's going to be. Right now is the summertime. This is when the building is ramping up. This is when you would see demand for lumber. It's not taking place. Why? Right? You can look at all the things. You can blame it on interest rates, right? But if you go and you think about what happened at the end of last year when the Federal Reserve put out that forward guidance, that credible threat, that job owning, the signaling that had everybody convinced that there was going to be a half a dozen rate cuts coming, or 2 or 3 of them, or whatever it was, sparked interest into the mortgage market. People started getting into mortgages. The interest rates started to come down. They started to impact the market as if those rates had already happened. Right? Think about the spark that took place just from the idea of it. What happens if they actually do it? Okay? All of a sudden, you're going to have a bunch of people ramping up to not only do business because, hell, they want to build homes, they want to sell them, they want to profit, they want to make money, right? Just like everybody else does. But they are nervous about the future. If they could have a condition in which that they were not nervous about the future and the buyers were coming to market, then I would see a huge demand for lumber that is just simply not enough of it in the system, and you're going to see the prices skyrocket, and the chances of you being able to get cheap lumber will be gone. All right, 12 minutes into this. I hope you enjoyed. I try to bring these lumber updates to you as quickly as I can from the information that I'm finding. It is difficult to try and bring you information that I just don't have proof of, like with links down in the description or something. Most of the information that I am getting is so quick and in advance that there's nobody that can report on it yet, because literally it hasn't had a chance to be reported on. That's how quickly I'm finding a lot of the information. Think about like how long I have been putting out this idea of mill curtailments that have been in the system for months now. Like the mill curtailment that has been in place is only ramping up. There's even more happening. There's even more shutdowns. It's very difficult to go and find the articles that talk about this. If they are not announced, like straight up, we are shutting down production, and it's coming from like West Fraser or Inifer or somebody like that, it makes it difficult to know how much production is actually taking place, because all these smaller mills out there don't put out announcements like that. You just have to know from the game, from being in the game, that there is a lack of supply coming. And you can see the lack of supply because it's not necessarily like I can't go down and get a 2x4. It's what type of 2x4 can I not get? Which ones are not available? Which ones are, what wides happen to be out of supply this week? That kind of condition is not normal, right? By experiencing this and by having other vendors coming to me going like, man, we don't get it, tells me that we have some serious situations taking place within the lumber market. And I feel like, again, it's only a matter of time before that builder who is itching to build, they want to do this, right? It's only a matter of time before they finally get that initiative to finally go for it. And when they do, it's going to be on. Yeah? All right. That's why our grandfathers had huge garages, barns. You have to accommodate things you will need when they are cheaper and have them stored so they are good when the time is to use those things, yeah? It's going to take 8 to 10 years for rates to get to sub 5%. Only 2x4 that's out of stock are the cheap ones. No, not really. Right now, if you go to market and you call up looking for premium grade, it's going to be very difficult. The standard and better lower grade is available out there. So, no, that's that. I mean, and that it could be different from every region. Again, this is like, just my particular area. You might find some areas they're like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's not the point. The point is that if I'm finding issues, some other place might find a different type of issue. It's the fact that these gaps are taking place. Right? These gaps in production is the major indicator. There's a gap in production taking place in housing by the fact that there is less building taking place, right? Permit issuance is dropping. Home starts are dropping. They're not increasing. And if you go and you look at the long-term timeline of these charts, and I left one down in the description for you to the Federal Reserve chart, just go and take a the long-term timeline. You're going to see that there is less taking place now than there was throughout most of history. Right? It's like home building was something that was very common back in the day. An individual would do it themselves. Like a guy with just some basic carpentry skills, didn't even take that much, could piece together a house for themselves. That doesn't occur anymore. So yeah, I can imagine back in the day there would have been a lot of production of homes. People could build their own home. Today, not so much. Even the idea of getting permit is so expensive. All the regulations and costs and fees and stuff that goes into the idea of even building a house before you even get started is more expensive than people can handle. There's I just don't see any situation coming into the future where they're going to be able to ramp up production so much that everybody's going to be provided with a house. I don't even see them ramping up production to even meet some of the things that even some of the averages that they had back in the day. Like, owning a home is only going to be essentially for rich people, right? And I don't like saying that because it doesn't feel good to actually use those words, but you're going to have to be rich to own a home. That's what it comes down to. I mean, Cantillon talks about it, right? He distinguishes everybody as property owners, the prince, or the capitalist who is investing into that system. Those are the three people who live independently, right? Everybody else has to put forth an insane amount of effort to survive. All right. Thank you very much. We have no rights. Thank you for the $4.99. Where do we go from here? Everything is fake. Fake economy, fake CPI, fake solutions, and fake people. With the new draft bill, TikTok for wartime. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it is that you're going to go from here, but I look at things in a much different fashion. Like, I don't put expectations out there on governments or politicians or anything else. The only expectation I have is on me to look at the situation for what it is and then hopefully make the best decisions for myself based on what it is that I see happening within the environment. The economy is very different for each and every single individual person. I don't care who you are. There is no way that anybody is going to be able to tell you what it is that you need in your life. Only you can do that, right? What it is that this guy's doing over here is appropriate for him. His suggestions, his ideas, what it is that he sees going on in the economy can be a completely different view from what it is that you have, right? He might be $100 million. You might be $10, right? There is no way that he is going to be able to relate and give you ideas on what it is that you need to do as an individual because they can't relate to what it is that you have going on in your life. They might be able to tell you, get out of debt, save all your money, earn as much as you can, all this stuff. They can give you these ideas, these pointers to it. But there's no way that they understand what happened to you in your life, what it is that you have for expectations. They don't know what your debt levels are going to be like. I mean, I guess you could always explain this to them and then hopefully find somebody who might be able to, understand your situation and then give you some pointers. But for the most part, nobody understands anything about the economy like you understand it because nobody understands you. Okay? Understanding this stuff for yourself to understand what it is that's taking place out there and how it is that you can position yourself for the best outcome is the only way to go about this. There's no way that there's going to be somebody on YouTube or on the news or anything else that's going to say, hey, I got this idea that's totally going to work for everybody, and everybody's going to be super happy, and we're all going to be singing Kumbaya, right? That doesn't, no, it doesn't work like that. That's not the way it goes down. It is much more difficult. It is much more personal. And a lot of times we put this expectation out there that there's somebody out there who can like make it work better, fix it or something of that nature. It doesn't go down. It won't happen. All right, cruising down to the bottom here. Stack your silver, wives, and guns. Hey, Benny's got the right idea. I like it. All right, Benny, I don't think most have, probably some. All right, Lowe's has picnic tables for $100. Wow. I love silver and guns. Who doesn't? Look at it this way. They are playing a completely different game than the rest of us. Rules aren't even the same. Sounds out there, but it's evident at this point. Yeah, I kind of agree on a lot of that. All right. Nobody can do anything better for you than you. That's it, Broken Arrow. I mean, there's no... It's just, it's sad to think in a lot of ways, because we do put so much, belief into the government that they can actually do something that is like good, right? But I found that out of all the good things that you can find coming from government, there's far more bad that exists from it. And the bigger it gets, the worse it gets. And I just try to find that there is no, like, I personally believe that the only way to really truly fix this problem is for each individual to start making decisions based on what it is that they think that they need in their life, but then also what it is that is creating the problem to do the opposite of it. Now, understanding that if we are having domestic manufacturing leaving this nation and we have an extreme amount of trade deficit, meaning that we are importing foreign production in a massive way, what does that tell you need to do with your money? Right? Buy local and not foreign. But nobody's going to do that because we all have the same human instinctual forces that are within us that says, I want to enjoy my money. Right? I worked hard for it and I want to enjoy it. An unfortunate part of enjoying money is using it to buy the cheapest things you can, right? Not the most expensive things. So this human nature aspect of it is going to destroy the economy in the long run, just simply from being human nature. It's just the way it goes down. Now, if we make conscious decision, hey, we're not going to enjoy the money in that fashion. Right? We're going to enjoy it in other ways. Hey, that's cool. Like, I could go and sit by the river and enjoy the view and have a great time doing that. But other people want to fly in a private plane to some remote location and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on that vacation, and they're not going to be happy unless that's the way it goes down. Right? I mean, essentially, it's the same experience, right? You're sitting there enjoying the view, but you're flying to some place to enjoy the view or whatever. Right? You can't force somebody to say, hey, enjoy the luxury of not spending money. You can't tell people that, right? Because nobody's going to do it. They're going to work hard, acquire as much as they can, and then go and spend that money and enjoy it. And then goes the problem. So it's better to think there is no fixing the problem, right? The problem exists. I need to know what it is I need to do in order to conduct myself around this mess, All right, Simon, why do you think that the asset money fund managers, who are presumably the driving force in most markets, haven't figured out the credible threats yet? I don't know if some of them haven't, right? And I think that if they were to communicate that, it wouldn't be on the mainstream media. Right? Because the mainstream media is propagating the propaganda, right? They're pushing the propaganda. They don't want to give you evidence of it being anything else. So I don't know, there might be some managers out there who do talk that way, who do understand it, but you're going to have to communicate with them on a personal level, because you're not going to find evidence of it out there in the mainstream media. And I don't know of like a blog site or a forum or something to go to where, the money market fund managers and all that other stuff are going to get together sharing their thoughts and ideas in that kind of way. I would imagine most of them are probably going to keep that fairly close and personal to their own business, since that's kind of like, you know, their way of like attracting more customers is like, hey, I know more than the next guy does, so why would they give that away, you know? So I'm not saying that they don't, but I mean, I don't think the mainstream media will give you evidence of it. All right, may simply just reset Hobbit. I saw before the stream started, Biden was praising Amazon and Walmart for their price cuts. Sounds like they want to incentivize lower price points. Well, it's going to happen no matter what. Like, I mean, just like anything, if you have a slowdown in commerce, what's going to happen? You're going to have a buildup of inventory. What happens if you have a buildup of inventory? You're going to have people who are going to be like, man, I need to get this stuff out. How do you get it to move? Lower the price, right? That's the only way to get inventory to move out. If they understood it, surely it wouldn't work. Yeah, I mean, I know that if people were to truly grasp and understand the monetary policy the way that we have here on this channel, breaking these speeches down word for word and like recognizing how it is that they state things within those speeches that are completely contradictory to the things that are stated within the mainstream media, like in recognizing these two different communications that are happening. Like if you look at the two and just like step back and just observe them, like here's one communication and this is the other communication, and you just observe it and don't try and like, you know, give it too much judgment or anything like that. You're just observing it. You can totally see that the communications coming from the speeches where they are communicating with the other bankers has a very how do I say this? Like it's set, it's determined, it's to the point. The mainstream media, it's very obscured, it's clouded, it's, you know, it's not set with any kind of assurance to it. People think that maybe that they're, you know, flying off the seat of their pants. And this is the communication that the Fed wants to put out to the public. They don't want them to know the communications that they're doing with the other central bankers, right? They can't have people thinking that thing. But the communications that are going out through propaganda, through the mainstream media, it's a very different type of communication. It's similar in sound, right? So you can see like they're talking about, you know, interest rates and inflation rate and stuff like that over here. But then when they communicate it out over here, it comes out as a much different story. It's still somewhat of the same language, you know, 2% over time, you know, but people hear this 2% target and they think, okay, the Fed is going for 2% target. But then you go and you look at the statements within the central banking communication, and they say that they're going for moderately above 2% for some time. Not a 2% target. Completely different. Like not like this is a 2% target being pushed through the propaganda mainstream media. Central banker's speech says moderately above 2% for some time. Not the same. Right? So recognizing that there's two communications that are being done at the same time, right? And you have to be witness of both of these. And you have to understand that these are two different types of languages that are happening here, right? And it's almost like being bilingual, like literally the Fed speak and then the propaganda speak. Yeah? And once you recognize these two different things that are happening here, you realize everybody's listening to the propaganda. They're basing their information, their logics, their outcomes, their, you know, everything off of the media propaganda. Right? But very rarely do they ever go to the central bankers' statements themselves to the other central bankers. That's the stuff that I focus in on. It's one of the reasons why I do the live streams, like the member-only live streams. We did one last night breaking down Michelle Bowman's speech, talking about how they use the balance sheet as the monetary policy tool, not the interest rate adjustments. The entire speech was everything about balance sheet adjustment, right? And how that impacts the monetary policy. And it was about, a lot of it was about the words that they use about the balance sheet adjustment that has the impact on the economy. It is like, you know, once you see the credible threat, once you understand it, once you know how it works, and once you've seen witness the evidence of it that has taken place, it's really easy. Like, it's almost like impossible not to see it anymore when you start realizing how this is communicated out there to the economy, and that 99% of the people do not see it. Like, I don't mean to think that I'm like the smartest dude in the world who's like, you know, got it figured out and nobody else has figured it out, but dang, I seem to be the only one out here who seems to talk about it in this fashion. Some dude in a 99 Ford Explorer with blue fuzzy dice cracked the code. Right? Straight up. Like, I mean, none of this stuff is questionable. Like, I totally get it. I see it. I understand what the Federal Reserve is up to. I know that the people in their understandings and belief about the Federal Reserve and how inflation is going to be running rampant and how they are screwed up and can't do their job, that actually gives the Federal Reserve the power that they were looking for. They needed an inflation expectation that was elevated to raise the neutral interest rate due to the fact that they had the demographics problem of an older population, a slowdown in global growth, a heightened demand for the safe and liquid assets like U.S. Treasuries that created a wider wedge between those safe and liquid assets and the riskier assets like corporate bonds. Like, this was their major problems that they were facing. Nobody talks about that stuff. Nobody brings that up, right? But we know about it because we bring down speeches like this: monetary policy strategies for a low neutral interest rate world, right? Once you see what their major problems were, right? The lower bound is zero. They couldn't drop interest rates any further, and that neutral interest rate was close to zero too. They were screwed. They were out of the game. But they said, that's okay. We got other stuff like balance sheet adjustments, jawboning, yeah, all these other tools we can use that don't necessarily mean that we have to adjust interest rates anymore. In fact, the adjustment of interest rates really don't work. We found, or they found, right, that using and including the research that we have done, we have found that by using their words about the interest rate cuts, about the balance sheet, about the future, those words are the most impactful thing to the entire economy. And they move it more than anything else does, is that belief, the expectations of what it is the Fed is going to do. Alrighty, guys, I am really going off here today, and I'm hardly reading any of this stuff, so let me go and read some of these comments. Go hit that like button. We got 337 people watching with 145 likes. Let's get it up to 200 likes before I end the stream, and we're going to be going for like another 10 minutes here or so. Alright, what do we got here? Go, Jack. Marks directly institutional investors. The gold standard is a non-starter. Yeah, gold standard won't work. That's right. See, that's what I like. That's one of the things that I really like about this channel, is that we have understood it. Like, I was a gold bug I am still like a gold bug. Look, guys, I carry it with me every day. Like, there's very little doubt that I will ever not have like silver on me, right? There's 1,000 grain bars in sterling silver. There's a 1 ounce, silver bullion. I am a huge fan of precious metals. I think everybody should own precious metals, but the idea of going back to a gold standard is very dangerous for an economy like the United States, who does not manufacture enough to support our standard of living. That's the major problem. And so going back to a gold standard not only cannot happen for us, but if we did go back to a gold standard, we would immediately all fall into poverty in the most scariest, miserable way. So, but understanding why that is also leads us to understand that we need to hold this stuff. Like, it's more important to hold it now than it ever has been. But the idea of taking it back to a gold standard, very dangerous. Very dangerous. All right. Try to spend those silver bars at Home Depot. Well, I tell you what, I can right now. Oops, I can, on my way to that place, stop off at my buddy's shop and sell it to him and have the money that I could go down to Home Depot with. I know how to easily liquidate this stuff. Like, for me, that's no problem. Turning this to cash right now, I can do that, right? I don't have a problem with that. A lot of other people don't have that network built. They don't understand how to do that, right? And so to them, it's not that liquidable. But to me, like, if I can't even go down to the shop, I know how to go down to the bar, right? And start talking to people at the bar and say, hey, this is the silver bar. This is the silver bullion right here, worth about 30 bucks. How about 25, 22? I can get some cash for it. I may not get the exact price for it that I want, but I can definitely turn it into some gas. I could turn it into food. I could turn it into anything I want. And I'm sure I could do it within a matter of a short amount of time, right? Because I've thought about it. I've tried. I've worked it, I've built up the network to be in that kind of condition. Yeah. That is why they want to go back to a gold standard. You're not going to go back to a gold standard. See, the problem with the gold standard is it's going to limit the amount of transactions that are available for people to do out there, and they're all going to fall into depression. They're going to be pissed about it. They're not going to use it. Floor 2, they are using the rate adjustments to establish their credible threats, and those do work. Yep. I know I hurt your feelings, so you will block me. Huh. No, the only time you get blocked is if you are spamming or directly insulting. Like, I'm not going to put up with name calling or like racism or hate or anything like that. And honestly, like, I don't like it, so that's one, but I can't do it from the channel. Like, YouTube algorithm will recognize those things and then stop spreading my videos around. So it actually hurts the channel to have those type of comments on there, right? Not that I have some kind of disagreement with, freedom of speech. Hey, go ahead and say whatever you want. But I'm not on a platform that gives me the ability to exercise my rights. This is a private platform of YouTube that allows me to be on it, and I have to follow their rules. If we were out on some other platform, then we can do something that's different, right? We can say whatever we want, and we can do whatever we want on those platforms. But we can't do it here. This is YouTube, and YouTube has rules, and I have to follow those rules if I want to be here. And I want to be here because YouTube has changed my life. Right? So I want to follow their rules. As much as I disagree with them, I'm a partner, right? I have to follow their rules if I'm going to play their game. You already asked and he answered that, Brody. All right, some 80-year-old woman called them on me. All right, question. What do you think that the asset money fund managers who are presumably driving forces? I think, yeah, didn't we already do that one, Brody? All right, love to see you give a good off-color trade, Simon. All right, $2 from Pooping While Standing. Thank you so much. Retiring overseas looks better than ever. All righty. Real world doesn't change as much as the numbers do. BRICS repatriates gold. We will have to follow suit. The BRICS won't do gold, bro. And I'm going to tell you why. Is because the gold standard will limit the amount of transactions that are available out there. But even if they did, right, to say, okay, fine, we're going to limit the amount of transactions. Screw it, right? We're going back to gold. We're going to have a steady currency that is going to have stable prices, and we're going to use this gold, period. End of story, okay? So let's imagine that scenario for just a moment, right? Okay, great. Now the dollar doesn't exist and we're using gold, right? Gold is the main form of transactions out there. Here's something very interesting that's going to happen is the most industrious person out there, whether it's a nation, a corporation, or whatever, is going to hoard all the gold for themselves because everybody wants to be a saver and producer, especially the BRICS nations. There's not one single one of them who wants to be the consumer, right? They all want to be the producer. Now, if you are producing, what are you doing? You're selling your stuff and you're taking in gold. If you are taking in gold and saving it, then you are denying the rest of the people out there the ability to do transactions because you are hoarding onto all the gold. And now this can be witnessed not only in this book, Cantillon's essay on economic theory, written hundreds of years ago, talking about that exact thing, increase and decrease of money to the state, chapters 6, 7, and 8, out of part 2. You can find this book down in the description of this video. There's an Amazon affiliate link. where if you buy this book from Amazon, I will get a little commission off of it, but you don't have to buy the book off of Amazon. You can go and get this essay for free at the Mises Institute. Now, if there has been not only hundreds of years ago talking about that exact scenario of the domestic manufacturing hoarding all the gold in, denying the rest of the people out there the ability to do transactions, what ends up happening is that gold gets relinquished back out to the world as the domestic manufacturing is no longer there to support the standard of living. Right? And this is where the gold starts losing its you start losing hold of it, and it starts pouring back out into the foreign production as that starts to move in. The United States experienced this exact scenario, right? Throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, we were a manufacturing powerhouse. We produced the world's greatest stuff. We sent that stuff out there to the world. The world sent us their gold. We hoarded that gold and provided dollars. People accepted the dollars because they looked at it as the same as gold. A certain amount of dollars got a fixed amount of gold. People didn't look at it and question it as any, some people probably did, but most people didn't, right? They looked at it and said, okay, fine, if you're using dollars, it's as good as gold, I'll use dollars. Well, too many dollars were used to do the transactions around the world, and when they started cashing in their dollars for gold, the United States says, no, I don't think so. See, if you do that, you're going to deny us all this gold, you're going to take it all away, we're going to fall into poverty and misery. Just like Cantillon's essay described from hundreds of years ago. Old Nixon says, nah, I don't think so. You know, we're going to go ahead and sever that now. Don't worry, it's temporary. Right, yeah. And then after that, we were on a fiat currency basis. And we held the gold and started going deeper into debt to create the new money. See, we were making new money by manufacturing wonderful things and sending it out there to the world, but when that ended, there was no way of getting new money in. How were we going to support our standard of living? There was no way of doing this without going into massive debt issuance. And since the world wanted to continue to do transactions and there wasn't any other available currency out there to do transactions with, just the dollar was the main choice for it, and everybody wants to work and sell stuff, so they started using the dollar, using the U.S. Treasury as the safe and liquid asset to back their own currencies, to back all the transactions that are happening out there. The United States has put us into what happened before we were even born, has put us into a predicament that will come to a devastating end. How far out into the future that is anybody's guess. These are the only thing that you can have that will protect you from that third-party claim. Maybe Bitcoin on a little lesser extent. But that's what's going down right now. How far out into the future can we go with this fiat currency system being the issuer of the safe and liquid assets like U.S. Treasuries, being in as much deficit trading as we're doing, where we're importing stuff and exporting the dollars? How long this can continue is anybody's guess. There is no runner-up. I don't care how many BRICS nations get together and say, hey, we're going to do this stuff all by ourselves without the dollar. Hey, go for it, man. Go for it. There ain't enough of you or the currencies or anything else out there that can even come close to matching what the dollar is doing. Second place is so far second behind, like you can't even see them. They aren't even recognizable. Like they don't even exist. There is no second place. It doesn't exist. There is nothing but the dollar. And if you were to take the dollar away, everybody would be in poverty and misery, because there's no other nation out there that is providing the world with the ability to do the amount of transactions it's doing right now if it's not for the US dollar itself. No Bitcoin, no gold, no little digital currency is going to match what the dollar is doing, period. End of story. Okay? And that's it. And so once you recognize it and you know it, then you can finally accept the fact that the gold standard is not coming back. If it did, it would be devastating poverty and misery across the land. Don't wish for it. Don't hope for it. Right? Okay, I gotta go. That was a nice little rant there at the end. You guys are awesome and beautiful people. Thank you for being here. Let me see. Bitcoin be fractionalized to the ninth degree, but it doesn't. Yes, but what that does is it creates a deflationary scenario that it can never be like resolved. It will always be in a deflationary. So if I am a TV salesman, I will have no other choice but to discount my TVs constantly in order to get a sale. So if I paid $100 for it, or a point fraction of a Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is deflationary, I would have to minus or lower that Bitcoin transaction, or the price of Bitcoin, or the amount of Bitcoin I would want for that TV in order to even move the TV itself, right? That is a horrible thing for business. Nobody would want to start a business doing that. Everybody would again be suffering in poverty and misery, because a deflationary scenario is not good for business. Great for the buyer, great for the saver, great for the person who's working, terrible for everybody else who's wanting to be in business, right? Deflationary currency doesn't work. It will limit the amount of transactions that are available for the people to do out there, and the most industrious person will hoard it all for themselves, right? It will end that way. If you don't understand Gresham's law and Triffin's dilemma, maybe look those things up, and then you would agree with me. All right, I gotta go, guys. Uneducated Economist, thank you very much for being here. We got 352 people watching with 187 likes. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. We got $6.99 in super chats, because you guys are always so supportive of the channel. Thank you very much for joining in. And then be sure and become a member of the channel. It's $1 a month. Like, there's a link down in the description. When you join the channel, you have access to a bunch of member-only videos. We go and break down speeches word for word, really like having a discussion about it, so that we can actually understand what it is that is being communicated through these things. They are information. It's information that you're just not going to get anywhere else. It is incredibly valuable. Listen to some of the people who have joined the channel and look at some of their comments that they have said. Like, they learn so much from those membership only videos. It's just amazing, and stuff that they just don't hear or see anywhere else. So very much worth it. There's a ton of videos to go through. $1 a month costs you hardly anything. $12 a year, $120 a decade. It's almost insignificant to you, but it's incredibly valuable to me. I put a lot of work and effort and energy into making those things happen. So yeah, thank you for supporting the Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.